Happy Monday. Welcome back to Sip with Joy. Whew, it is Monday and I feel like it's already the end of the week. I don't know why I'm so tired already. Well, I was up late last night, but I was doing some work getting ready for the week. But anyway, so I am pushing through this Monday, but I'm grateful. And welcome back to another episode of Sip with Joy. So, if this is your first time joining, Sip with Joy is a show about a girl, her wine, and her feelings. And I am that girl. I am your host, Joy M. Hutton. I'm a serial entrepreneur and lover of food and wine. And as always, you know, I have my glass of wine with me. So today I am drinking a Bordeaux Blanc. And y'all, this is so good. This is a really good summer wine. So you know where you can find out about it at Sip with Joy on Instagram when I do my sip of the day. So make sure you tune into that and follow at Sip with Joy on Instagram. And if you're not subscribed to this page, go ahead and subscribe. Like the episode, comment so I know you're here. Hey, Robin. Ooh, my voice is cracking. See. And I don't know what the alcohol content in this wine is, y'all, but I think it's high because I already feel a little buzz from doing my sip of the day summary earlier. I had to do multiple takes, and I definitely had multiple sips each time. So, yeah, I don't know what the content, alcohol content on that is, but it's high. Anyway, so again, welcome back for another Monday. Happy Fade in the Water Day. Some are saying happy chairiversary, you know, whatever you want to call it. Y'all remember the Montgomery Brawl happened on this day. So we're cheersing to that. Anyway, so today's episode is titled Projectidating, which is the act of someone projecting their emotions or unconscious desires onto you while you are dating. Makes sense, right? And so I saw this term in an article in Pure Wow. I'm signed up on an email list, so I get all that stuff. But it made me think about how many conversations I've had about men projecting their insecurities or their fears onto me when dating instead of being honest. And I have, in the article, the psychologist says that it's easy to become invested in the idea of a relationship without considering whether you actually want the relationship. And I was like, oh, wow. Because I've definitely been in situationships where I feel like the person is not, well, I won't say obsessed, but they're focused on the idea of me as opposed to actually taking the time to get to know me. And I'm like, if you are not trying to figure out who I am, just get to know me, ask questions, but it's very surface level. And, you know, this leads to overlooking a lot of important things when you are just keeping things surface level. And I remember I was in one situationship where, I mean, it was very new, and if the guy had actually taken the time to get to know me, a lot of assumptions wouldn't be made about me, and he wouldn't have projected certain things about me, because I'm like, you clearly don't know me if these are things that you're saying about me. And you know, but it was based on his own insecurities and his own fears that he knew he couldn't live up to, or made assumptions about being with someone like me, you know, whatever. But that's a whole other that's a whole other thing. But it was just really odd because I'm like, so you're popping off at me because of your insecurities about being a certain type of man that I've said that I need. So anyway, hey Elsie, hey girl, hey. So yeah, but again, when you're focused on the idea of someone, it does lead to a lot of things that you're overlooking. Like, can you be vulnerable with this person? How does this person actually make you feel? Are you actually ready to be in a relationship? Like, the idea of a relationship may sound good to some people, but are you actually ready to be in a relationship? You know, are they who you thought they were in your head? And sometimes I struggle with that because a lot of people think they know me based on what they've seen on TV, what they've seen on social media. And it's really crazy to me because, like, I was on TV 4 years ago. I'm like, can we move past it? And although I was myself, I'm not the same person that I was 4 years ago. But people, it's almost like they use that as a case study and assume and make assumptions about who I am based on, like I said, what they've seen on TV or what they've seen on social media. They think, oh, you like all these things. Yeah, but there's more to me than social media. There's more to me than being on TV. Though that's like a highlight reel of my life. Like, take the time to actually get to know me. And it's just really interesting. And I definitely struggle with that, with dating. Like, a lot of the times I don't want to give my Instagram out. I don't want to tell people I've been on TV. I mean, it will come up. Obviously, that's something I will share with someone that I've been dating for a while, but it's like, get to know me. So what does it look like when someone is projected dating? And now they got a term for everything, y'all. I'm just like, projected dating. Okay, I get it, projecting while dating, but it's basically projecting, because this can happen in friendships, it can happen in relationships, work, whatever. But in this case, we're focusing on dating, projecting and dating. So, they may say that you're probably going to leave me like everyone else because they got abandonment issues, and, they fear that the relationship will end, or they try to beat you to the punch. I've had guys where I want to have a conversation about things, but it's like, no, you going to end things with me before we even get to talk about it, because they think I'm going to end things with them. And I'm like, actually, no, that's not what I was going to say. I just wanted to have a conversation about things, but since you already want to beat me to the punch, then go ahead then. Go be great. Um, LC said, when you meet guys, do they know you from the TV show or is it organic? It's a combination of both. I have met guys through my DMs, but those guys more than likely know that I was on TV. And so when I have met people organically who have had no idea, which is great. And then those are the ones that actually take time to get to know me, but then it does come up in conversation, and then people are like, oh, you went on a reality TV show, and then they're projecting, their assumptions or perceptions about reality TV onto me. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't on some ratchet TV show, and I wasn't on there acting crazy and embarrassing my mama and my daddy and my sister. And so it comes with a lot. It definitely comes with a lot. So, and Elsie said yes, and they get intimidated. And that is also an interesting thing too, the intimidation factor. Because I'm like, when are we going to get past that? When can we have honest conversations about fears, or things that you may be uncomfortable with? Like, if a guy said, you know what, I have a certain profession and I don't think I can keep up with your lifestyle. Okay, that's fine. Like the guest on the show last week was talking about the 80-20. Her husband doesn't like trying new foods. Okay, well, she got friends for that. I got friends I can go travel with and try, certain restaurants with, and things like that. But a lot of people are not going to have the conversation with you. They just make an assumption about whether they can or cannot be with you, and they're not talking these things out. So, but yeah, so it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that. And yeah, I just feel like the intimidation factor should be old by now. Like, women have jobs, women have been independent, women are doing their things. And so why does this have to be, why are men intimidated? And men, if you're in the chat, you could chime in too on that. Why there's this intimidation factor, because I don't understand that. I ain't gonna bite. Well, I could, but not in that way. And then, comparing you to an ex because they haven't healed from their past relationship, or they have unresolved feelings or unresolved issues with that ex. Like, oh, well, my ex did this, but but wait, boo, I'm not your ex. And don't bring that into this situation because I'm a completely different person from your ex. And if something that I said maybe reminded you of that, then let's talk about it. But don't compare me to your ex. Um, and then, I've had people say to me, well, other people want me too. I could easily cheat. Well, then go do your thing, boo. They, like, don't project that onto me because I'm not cheating. If I'm with someone, I'm with someone. And if I don't want to be with you anymore, then that's it. But don't sit up here and say, like, oh, I could cheat too, but I'm not cheating. But that's, again, people projecting their insecurities. And it's like you're insecure about someone looking at me or the possibilities of me choosing someone else. Again, let's talk about that. Like, what would make you feel at ease? You shouldn't feel that way. LC said, I have always thought when I got older, it would be easier to have conversations and stop playing games. Wrong. Bring out the Monopoly. Right. You would think that it's easier to have conversations, but people don't. And I'm finding more as I get older. And I keep telling people, I think really the pandemic really screwed us over because people's social skills and communication skills are shot. But I feel like people just, instead of having the conversations, they will ghost you or, again, project onto you, and they don't have the conversations, and they just like, I'm done, on to the next. And I'm like, so people don't have disagreements anymore, people don't have conflict anymore that they can resolve. I don't understand. Make it make sense to me. When people say, oh, you don't like me anymore, where is that coming from? Did I say I didn't like you anymore? Did my actions say I didn't like you anymore? But again, it's these insecurities that they're holding on to with past. Like, I had dated a guy, he had been cheated on several times, and he was very insecure. And I'm like, dude, when I'm with you, I'm with you. You got to deal with your unresolved issues. I cannot convince you, uh, you know, I cannot convince you otherwise. Whatever's in your head is in your head. I can't make you feel a certain way. Whatever I'm doing is based on your own experiences and your own trauma that you have to deal with. So it's a lot. Robin said, yes, people give up too easily and walk away. There's no fighting for each other anymore. Right. Fight for me. They just like, boop, out the door. LC said insecurities and emotional blackmail. Ooh, yes. So, and then I've had, people say you don't need a man, but that is suggesting that you're overly independent, and it brings light again to their insecurities about, you having a job, you having your own thing, and any dependency issues that they may have or fear of not being needed. And I know we've had conversations about this on the podcast too, like this independent women syndrome where women are like, I don't need a man. But listen, I need a man, okay? Don't get it twisted. I need and want a man. So, but there is this fear that some men have about not being needed. And, it's just a lot of things. And I think we really should have open conversations about these things when we have these fears and insecurities in a relationship, especially if you feel like this is somebody that you really like, but we don't. We don't have these conversations, and like literally people are like, I'm out. And it's like, dang, we're not going to have a conversation. I need some space, and then they gone, so it's just really, it's really ghetto out here, guys. It really is. And so it makes you wonder, like, okay, so why do people project? I've mentioned some of those things, but, it's a defense mechanism first. They don't want to face their issues head on, and so they are projecting onto you. I mentioned the unresolved past traumas, fear of being vulnerable. And I've talked to, like, especially my Black male friends about this, where, if they have a hard time expressing themselves, it does come off in another way. It may come off in anger. It may come off in insults, things like that. NKO said, need and want a real man, not one coming with a bunch of baggage or thinking I'm a come up. Right. LC said, I think some men want you to be needy. I want you and like you, but not need like a baby needs someone to take care of them. Absolutely. There's a difference. There's definitely a difference. And, I definitely try to be aware of that, because when you're single for so long, you do fall into that independent woman syndrome. However, when a man comes around, best believe, like, if you want to do something, I'm not stopping you, but yeah, there is a difference from that. Yeah, need you like a baby. Like, I don't need you to be my daddy. I got a daddy. I got a mama. I need you to be a man, So there absolutely is a difference between those. And then some people just want control, and so their way of, trying to have control is projecting. And, they also may be preserving their self-image. I've been in relationships where they didn't want to break up, or they didn't want to stop dating because it was all about image. And I'm like, this is not working. And if you're not willing to do the work, then what are we doing? I'm not about to stay in a situation just because we look good together. No, it's not happening. Um, Elsie said, child, if you want to wash my car, I want you to, right? So yeah, I'm not doing it. So yeah, then there's misplaced anger. So like I said, there's if they are harboring something from before, then that could be misplaced anger. And then sometimes they just need to blame somebody else for their problems. You are not the problem. When someone is projecting onto you, it is because of their own experiences, their own trauma, whatever they have traditionally dealt with in the past with a specific issue, and maybe something you did had triggered that reaction. But at the end of the day, it's still their reaction, and they need to get to the bottom of why they responded a certain way. Because yeah, like I was watching a movie last night, and this guy, he was abusing her, and he was keeping her from his family. He's like, I'm the only family that you need, because he lonely, he doesn't have family. And she's like, no, I have to go fix this with my family. And he beat her ass, and beat her into submission, and she was too scared to go anywhere. And it's like, people project these things onto you, and make you feel bad about being a working woman, or you're going to be too busy for me, you're not going to have time for me. But I was making time, so what is the problem? But they got they got abandonment issues. They think you're not going to make time before you even get to that point. So it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. And we're actually the season finale is actually going to be about getting to the bottom of insecurities with we'll have a licensed therapist. She'll be talking about that. We're also going to talk about narcissism, because I think that term is misused a lot. A lot of clinical terms are being misused out here, and I think we need to make sure that we are using them properly. NKO said, wow, my brakes are messed up. One said, you need to find a good alley mechanic. However, the other man I know said, well, I will be by tomorrow and take your car in for you. That's what I'm talking about. And then Elsie said, then if you have your hand out, you're a gold digger. I mean, you can't win. Like, what do you do? So, yeah. And with projecting, a lot of times people are unaware that they are projecting. And that can be very dangerous. Like I said, the example with the abusive partner, like, sir, what you're seeing in your head is not happening here. But sometimes people are aware, and those are the people that, listen, I got to go. So what do you do? What are some next steps when this is happening? If you're in a situation, one, don't ignore the red flags, because They're usually there. We always see the signs. Try not to bust a ninja upside his head. Because a lot of times we want to do that. We wanna have a calm conversation if we can. Try to diffuse the situation. Try to have an open dialogue. And there are some people you just can't talk to, right? And I have been in situations like that outside of dating. I've been in that situation with friends where I just cannot have a conversation with them. They're only seeing their point of view, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Um, and at that point, there's no conversation to be had. But hopefully, if the situation is worth saving, then you can have an open dialogue about it. And sometimes you got to suggest some professional help. Therapy saves. And then if all else fails, you got to let go and let God. Because at the end of the day, you don't save him. He don't want to be saved. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. You can't save everybody. So my what the sip today, I don't even know who this woman is, but I saw this story. Her name is Tokyo Vanity. I'm assuming she's a rapper. I don't know. If y'all know who Tokyo Vanity is, you can tell me. You can tell me who it is. Jasmine Sullivan told you what to do. Listen, we not gonna bust the windows out the car, okay? LC. um, but she was telling a story about her best friend cheating with her man. And it was on her birthday. She was supposed to be at her birthday party. And she was like, oh, I'm sick. I can't make it. And then she had to go back to her house and get something. And this woman was in her house with her man in her bed. Turns out this woman got pregnant and stayed with the man. And then years later, she wanted to have a conversation with Tokyo. Like, what do we have to talk about at this point? Because you lucky I didn't drag you down the street. See, this is how people end up on 48 hours, or on Snapped, because people do ignorant stuff like this. And I just cannot. Like, I cannot with people. So anyway, next week, I have a guest, and she has a gift, and we're going to talk about her gift of intuition, and she's an intuitive, so we're going to talk to her, and not a river rat, Elsie. Elsie said, wow, a river rat. She thought that was her friend, right? And people were like, this is why you can't bring your single friends around your man, and that should not be the case. You got to look at your friends if you can't bring your man around. Like, that's something is wrong with that picture if you cannot bring your friends around your man. Because, listen, I'm going to bring my man around my friends, and we should not have a problem. Because I'll bust all y'all heads. But anyway, y'all, if you want to chime in on this, call me. Call me now. Y'all know what the number is, or maybe you don't, because I haven't put it up here in a while. 713-396-0277 if you want to tell me about your projected dating story, because it's yeah, guys, I'm just trying to survive out here, and it gets a little rough sometimes, because people want to put all of their misplaced anger and trauma and everything onto you, and when people start throwing around, like I said, clinical terms, oh, am I triggering you? Don't do that. Don't do that, boo. We're not doing that. We're going to have a real adult conversation. That's what we're going to do. So, yeah, and y'all know I'm all about adult conversations because I'm not playing these games out here with these people. So, all right, if nobody's going to call me today, I'll talk to y'all next week. I'll see you later. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. All my friends keep telling me, tell the people to subscribe, like, and comment, y'all. Okay? And I'll see you back here next week. Bye.